Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the April 25th DuPage County Finance Committee meeting to order. Okay, a physical quorum of the members is physically present. I'll entertain a motion to permit member LaPlante not physically present due to employment issues to participate by video. Do I have a motion? Motion by member Tortori, second by member Krajewski, all in favor? Okay, welcome member LaPlante. Can we have a roll call, please? Is member LaPlante on? Okay.
Member Cahill, member Chaplin,
Here.
member Childress, member Covert, member Desart, member Eckhoff, member Evans,
Here.
member Galassi, member Garcia,
Here.
member Guston, member Krajewski, member LaPlante,
Here.
member Ozag, member Rutledge, member Torzi, member Tornatori, member Yu, and member Zay.
Okay, we have a quorum. On the matter of public comment, according to our board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in length, nor shall the total time provided for all remarks exceed 30 minutes. The committee has received public comment via our online portal. Trini, you want to go ahead and? Oh, we don't have to read it. Oh, yes. So we did receive one comment received electronically, and those will be included in our county minutes. Okay, with that, chairwoman's remarks. I just wanted to remind and maybe inform, especially our new members, going into budget season, our committee meetings may be running a little bit longer. So I'd ask chairs and board members, when a committee member comes in looking for a member for a quorum, to please be respectful, and please have, especially if you're done with your voting on items, to let a member leave if so needed. We're going to be coming into summer budget. We have, people that take vacations in the summer, people that, we have board members that get sick. So I just asked for a little patience with that. And some of our meetings do run close. And, like I said, just be respectful when somebody comes in looking for members to make a quorum. And with that, I'll move on to the approval of the Finance Committee meetings from April 11th.
So moved.
I have a motion by member Desart, was it? Second by member Krajewski. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to items number 6, budget transfers. Can I have a motion on FIR 011223? Budget transfers for 25-23 from various companies and accounting units. Who made the first on that? Oh, I have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Guston. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. We move on to procurement requisitions for finance. Can we have member Krajewski, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move on FIP 0005-23, recommendation for approval of contract purchase order that gets Go International to provide employee service award milestones not to exceed $44,777.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0110-23, additional appropriation for the county infrastructure fund for $139,715.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last I move on FIR 011-23, authorization to transfer $139,715 to the facilities management infrastructure fund.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Krajewski. We move on to economic development. Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to amend EDP.
Member LaPlante, I think you're on mute.
I'm not muted. Can you hear me? My mute is off.
No, the state's attorney clarified that our meeting minutes that the board. Do you want to take it, Lisa?
the board rules were amended such that a chair can't chair remotely, but it doesn't, there's no limitation with regard to giving a report from the remote place.
So we can make that amendment going forward, but go ahead, member LaPlante.
Okay, I move to amend EDP 0001-23 to correct a Scrivener's error in the title of the resolution.
We can't hear you. Maybe should we have member Galassi take it? We can't. I have.
We're not getting any.
I'm not muted.
Member LaPlante, we're going to go ahead and give that to member Galassi, vice chair, to take.
Sure.
Amendment to County Contract 5234001 serve issued to Carroll Stream Chamber of Congress for one-stop operator services for the Workforce Development Division to increase the contract by $41,254 and extend the contract through June 30th, 2025.
I have a motion by member Galassi, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Galassi.
Thank you. For item 7.B.2 in Finance Committee, I move to amend EDP 000123 to correct scriber's error in the title of the resolution. I move to amend to change the contract total amount from $310,434 to $310,343.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a motion by member Galassi, second by member Garcia. All in favor? Opposed? Member Galassi, continue, please.
Okay, I move to approve 7B2 EDP 00123 awarding resolution issued to Central States SER to provide youth training services for the period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for workforce development for a contract total amount not to exceed $310,343 per RFP 23010 WIOA
As amended.
as amended.
Yes. Okay, I have a motion by member Galassi, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Galassi.
I move to approve 7B.3 EDP 00223 awarding resolution issued to Turning Point Autism Foundation to provide youth training services for the period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for workforce development for a contract total amount not to exceed $89,141 per RFP 23010 WIOA.
Motion by member Galassi, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Galassi. We move on to judicial public safety. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on JPSP 005223, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Trinity Services Group, Inc. to provide meals for the inmates and officers in the jail for the sheriff's office for the period of June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for a contract total amount of $1,225,031.
I have a motion by member Evans, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Evans. We move on to public works. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMCO 006723, approval of an amendment to purchase order 5597-0001 serve for a contract issued to Conference Technologies, Inc. for AV equipment upgrades of 42 courtrooms in the Henry J. Hyde Judicial Facility to increase the contract amount to $47,344.08.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move to approve FMCO 006823 amendment to resolution FMP 019822 issued to Cone Inc. to provide elevator and escalator maintenance and repair services to add the following scope of work: to install smart 3D microwave radar elevator sensor and door protection systems at the DuPage Care Center and DuPage County Jail and Sheriff's Office, and to increase the contract in the amount of $139,715, taking the original contract total of $3,424,330.48 and resulting in a new amended contract total amount not to exceed $3,564,045.48.
A motion by member Garcia, second by member Rutledge. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move to approve FMP 006223 recommendation for the approval of a contract to FE Moran Inc. Mechanical Services to upgrade and replace components of the existing judicial office facility annex East Fan Building automation HVAC control systems for facilities management for the period April 25th, 2023 through November 30th, 2023 for a total contract amount not to exceed $36,905.
Do I have a second? Motion by member Garcia, second by member Galassi. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMP 006323 recommendation to award RFP 23012 FM to Enterwise Global Technologies LLC for participation in the demand response program contract for called emergency events for approximately $31,773 in revenue to DuPage County for a 1-year period from June 1, 2023 through May 31st, 2024.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of FMP 006423 recommendation for the approval of a contract to Dynamic Industrial Services Inc. to repair and rehabilitate the interior of the thermal storage tank at the power plant for facilities management for the period of April 25th, 2023 through May 31st, 2024 for a total contract amount not to exceed $460,912.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Galassi. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
I move for approval of PWCO 000423, an amendment to county contract 5620-0001 issued to Core and Main LP to add Village of Lisle municipal water customers to the advanced meter infrastructure network managed by DuPage County Public Works, with the Village of Lisle reimbursing the county for the incremental cost to increase the contract of the amount of $99,624, taking the original contract amount of $1,749,712, resulting in an amended contract total amount not to exceed $1,849,336, an increase of 5.69%.
Have a motion by member Garcia. Do I have a second? Second by member Evans. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Member Garcia.
Finally, I move for approval of PWP 003123 recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order to Verizon Wireless for wireless services for the Public Works facilities for the period of April 25th, 2023 to October 2nd, 2025 for total contract amount not to exceed $34,000, contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act for the State of Illinois Master Contract.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, member Garcia. We move on to transportation and in Chair Ozog's absence, the Vice Chair Tornatori.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move approval of 23-1577 DTR 00588-23, amendment to DTR 0058-23, issued to Manivelle Construction Company to provide parking lot improvements for the DuPage County Fairgrounds, to increase the funding in the amount of $75,000, resulting in an amended contract total of $428,014.45, an increase of 21.25%.
Have a motion by member Tornatori, second by member Desart. Any discussion on this item? Member Desart?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that this is no cost to the county at all. It's 100% grant funded, and I'd like to thank the clerk's office for reaching out and getting this grant to help pay part of the fairgrounds parking lot. Thank you.
Thank you, member Desart. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. Member Tornatori.
Madam Chair, move approval of DTP 0063-23, a recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hard Rock Concrete Cutters Inc. for sidewalk saw cutting for the period of April 26th, 2023 to March 31st, 2024 as needed for the Division of Transportation for contract total not to exceed $40,000 per municipal partnering initiative bid number 2022-23, first of two options to renew.
Motion by member Torrentori, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Madam Chair, move approval of DTP 0064-23, a recommendation for the approval of a contract with Monroe Truck Equipment Inc. Furnish and deliver Monroe spreader and plow repair and replacement parts for the Division of Transportation for the period of May 1, 2023 through August 15, 2026, for a contract total not to exceed $90,000. Contract pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Act, NJPA, source call number 062222.
I have a motion by member Torrentori, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Madam Chair, move approval of DTP 0065-23, recommendation for the approval of the contract in Northern Contracting Inc. Furnish, deliver, repair, and install guardrails as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period May 12, 2023 through May 11, 2024, for contract total not to exceed $40,000 for lowest responsible bid 21-028-DOT, second of three options to
Motion by member Torrentori, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Madam Chair, move approval of DTP 0066-23, a recommendation for the approval of a contract with Primera Engineers Limited to provide professional construction engineering services for the 2023 pavement maintenance program, section 3-PBMTC, is 19 GM for the period of April 25th, 2023 to November 30th, 2024, for contract total not to exceed $459,579. Professional services, architects, engineers, and surveyors vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with the Illinois Local Government Professional Services Selection Act, 50 ILCS 510/1 at second.
Have a motion by member Torrentori, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Madam Chair, move approval of DTP 0067-23, a recommendation for the approval of the contract Chastain and Associates LLC to provide professional construction engineering services for the 2023 pavement maintenance central program, section 23-PBMTC-21-GM for the period of April 25th, 2023 to November 30th, 2024, for contract total not to exceed $473,055.98. Professional services, architects, engineers, and surveyors vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with the Illinois Local Government Professional Selection Act, the ILCS 510/0.01.
I have a motion by member Torrentori, a second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Chair, move approval of DTP 0068-23, recommendation for the approval of contract purchase order to HW Lochner Inc. for professional construction engineering services for the 2023 pavement maintenance south program, section 23-PVMTC-20-GM for the period of April 25th, 2023 to November 30th, 2024, for a contract total not to exceed $586,291.33. Professional services, architects, engineers, and surveyors vetted through a qualification-based selection process in compliance with the Illinois Local Government Professional Services Selection Act, ILCS 510/0.01. That's not.
Have a motion by member Torrentori, a second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
DTR 0059-23, and awarding resolution to RW Dutton Company for the 2023 pavement maintenance central program, section 23-PVMTC-21-GM for an estimated county cost of $4,138,000 per low bid.
Motion by member Torrentori, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Torrentori.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move approval of DTR 0060-23, awarding resolution RW Dutton Company for the 2023 pavement maintenance south program, section 23-PVMTC-20-GM for an estimated county cost of $4,367,944.39 per low bid.
Motion by member Torrentori, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Member
Thank
Tornatori.
you, Madam Chair. And finally, I move approval of DTR 61 twenty-three and awarding resolution to RW Dutton Company for the 2022 paper sports program, section 23 PBMTC. PM for an estimated cost of $88,003 per local.
Motion by member Tornatori, second by member Desart. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, member Tornatori. We move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to combine items 8A and B.
Have a motion to combine items 8B and 8A and B by member Krajewski, second by member Zay. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. These are both travel. Move 1-1585 supervisor assessments. Staff to attend the State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board hearings in Springfield, not to exceed $1,000. 1590. Assessment staff to attend the state Springfield, not to exceed $5,000.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Desart. Any discussion on these items? All in favor? Opposed? The motion. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0113-23 authorization and transfer $14,000 in budget to the.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Please. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0114-23 authorization and transfer $770,000 budget to probation for fiscal year 23.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Member
Thank
Krajewski.
you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0116-23 acceptance appropriation of additional funding for the aging case coordination unit, the amount of $30,000 ARPA item.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last, I move on FIR 0117-23 acceptance appropriation of the low income house energy assistance program for the amount of $1,118,000.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Zay. Oh, member Garcia, sorry. It's on a little horse this morning, Paula. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Member Krajewski, move on to informational, and going to call member Krajewski again.
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items: A, payment of claims; B, wire transfers; C, appointments; D, grant proposal notifications.
Okay, I have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia to receive and place and file items A, B, C, and D under informational. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Krajewski. With that, we move on to presentations, and our first presentation is our treasurer, Gwen Henry. So good morning and welcome, Gwen. Oh, hold on one second. There you go.
We're glad to be here today to present a presentation and overview of the county investments. I'm going to ask our Chief Deputy for Treasury to make that presentation. It's Ellen Smith. I don't think a lot of you have met Ellen, but she works very diligently in our office and does a wonderful job. And I'm going to ask for you during this presentation to hold any of your questions, make a note of them and ask them at the end, because sometimes your questions could be answered before we get to the end of the presentation. So Ellen.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very glad to be here to share the treasurer's approach to managing DuPage County funds and to provide you with some insight into how those funds are managed over the last few years through this really strange and rapidly changing interest rate environment. It worked yesterday. They able to do it. What I'd like to talk about today is the DuPage County investment portfolio and just sort of to describe what you'll be seeing on the slide in terms of information These are county funds, but they would not include ARPA funds. They would not include ETSB, the Public Works Department, or Health Department. Those are pools that are managed separately. So we'll talk about just the county related investments. And then we'll go into a little bit about the different asset classes that we have placed county funds and their maturities. And then I'd also like to talk about some newer interest sources that we're taking advantage of starting in late 22-23. And then we'll finally, we'll talk about what all of this portfolio construction means for interest earnings for the county for this year. Did it. At the end of February, there was 270 million that had been placed in interest earning investments. The approach that we take is to strive for a balance between the liquidity needs of the county as well as with market conditions and opportunities, while maintaining safe investments for the county is really dictated by the Illinois Public Funds Act that we subscribe to. This act provides restrictions, places restrictions on where government funds may be placed in terms of assets and in terms of maturities. In addition, the treasurer has an additional safety measure for these deposits, in that she requires bank deposits to be collateralized. So we're always keep that safety in top of mind for that. The pie chart that you're looking at right here describes kind of the portfolio construction approach we take and what we use the different assets for. So in the lower left-hand corner, short-term money is placed with money market accounts. And then moving on sort of counterclockwise, thinking about the more intermediate, medium-term placement of county funds. And that's kind of the 6-month to 18-month period. We would use CDs for those funds, treasury notes, and then something a little bit newer, which I'll talk about, are some term investments. That's the medium-term pool of funds for the county. And then at the top in the yellow pie chart is where we would place the sort of the stable county funds. So those funds that the county would not need on an immediate or medium-term basis. And we use a bond fund manager for those funds. So this slide here reflects really the fastest, we're seeing the fastest Fed rate hike cycle in the last couple of decades. And the portfolio on a sort of asset basis is reflecting that. Looking at the first group of charts at sort of different points in time, our managed bond funds have, as you would hope, to be kind of providing stable returns for the county across different rate environments. The CD and the US securities portfolio are obviously more impacted by market rates at the time. So you can see over the past couple of years that that group of funds has increased as market rates have increased. Term investments is a newer product for us, fourth quarter 22. And so there were obviously higher interest rates at that time when the funds were placed in that account. And then finally, the money market rates over time, just a illustration of movement from basically near zero return on money markets a couple of years ago to this was at the end of February. It's 4.5%. It's higher yet. So looking at a little bit deeper dive into some of the products that were placed, our certificate of a deposit program, there's about 37 million in there. And those are placed with local banks at competitive rates. The treasurer has a competitive bid program for those funds. We are taking bids from up to 20 banks. And these are our partner banks that we consider because in addition to giving us rates on CDs, they are also assisting with tax collection. So it's a good relationship that we have in order to get that. We currently hold CDs at 4 banks right now. As you can see, this is historically a little bit lower as during the low rate environment through the pandemic, some banks had de-emphasized taking CD monies. But so we would typically expect to see possibly 8 different bank names up here. So talking a little bit about portfolio construction and how we think about things over time. This is a chart of our certificates of deposit balances and yield over the last 5 years. And if I could direct your attention to that first, the left-hand box for the period 2019 and 2020. And you can see the balances have decreased at that time period. And that was kind of a liquidity driven change for the portfolio. We were making sure that as at the onset of the pandemic that the county would have some cash if in case that was needed. So we held back from investing CDs at that time. We obviously, through the pandemic, got comfortable with being able to place those funds. And so in 2021, you see that number going back up, even though the interest rates were not great. So then looking at the second box on the right-hand side, you see a further decrease in CD funds over the couple of years. And that's more of a rate-driven experience for the CD portfolio, and where as the Fed started to raise interest rates, there were just better opportunities with the treasury notes. So it was sort of a shift from what you're seeing here is a shift from CDs to treasuries. And the treasury securities. Really weren't a big part of the portfolio in the past few years, but as I mentioned, this is something that that were some great opportunities beginning in 2022 with the Fed rate cycle. So that's why you see it about 33 million in treasury securities. And just the lower chart is to illustrate kind of the dynamics of this sort of midterm pool. Back in July of 22, there were treasury notes for 1-year term were around 3%. We took we had a request for bids at around that time from partner banks, and that CD return bids that we were getting was, from 1 to 2.5%, with money markets at 6%. So there was a significant spread between this midterm asset class. And so that's how treasury notes are a larger portion. In April current, that spread has largely evaporated. And so we expect to see perhaps more CDs going forward. Our money market accounts, again, and not a lot to say other than they're just impacted by market rates. Increase in balances that you see in the last couple of years or I guess in 2023, is really a shift of county funds from operating accounts, which are our main depository and disbursement bank accounts, into this product to be able to take advantage of that better rates and provide interest for the county. And then our managed bond portfolio, as I mentioned, this is more of a stable, this is a stable portfolio for county funds. So we would expect that we would not need to liquidate this portfolio on any rapid basis. So we think about placing that for in assets that have longer maturities, that are also very safe and limited by Illinois state statutes. But in this case, we have fund managers that are constructing this portfolio. So the investment profiles are determined and we rely on their expertise by these fund managers. We've had a couple of fund managers, a long-standing relationship with them. Although in March of 22, we determined to issue an RFP for fund manager services. And that was due to a couple of reasons. One of the fund managers was exiting the fixed income market, and we were needing to name a replacement fund manager. As well, we were anticipating the influx of ARPA funds in May and wanted to make sure that we had a placement for those ARPA funds. And at the time, we were also having some conversations about sort of what is a stable level of county funds, and could we maybe increase that from what had been, a 2-fund manager to a 3-fund manager type of position with that. And so this is kind of where the 3 fund managers in aggregate have placed county funds back in, or this is as of February. 50% of it are in U.S. Treasury securities, which was where I think, reflects where some strong opportunities were. And then the other about 25% is in government agency funds of mortgage-backed securities, those that are implicitly or explicitly guaranteed by the U.S. government. And then there's corporate, about another 25% in corporate bonds, and those are higher quality, shorter term bonds with no longer than a 3-year maturity. I mentioned some additional interest in resources that we have. Late in 22, we decided that we could put in some additional funds into a product that's available through one of our new fund managers, PFM Asset Management. It's a term investment program. It's a very safe program. It's U.S. Treasury securities, but it allows you to place funds for an intermediate term up to 1 year into kind of different investments. The difference here is this is not something that's managed by the fund manager. This is just directed by ourselves. There's right now about 32 million in there, and the average yield on that is about 4.5%. The chart below that just kind of shows how we've laddered out the investments over the next, well, this is back in February, but kind of at the time through July. And then finally, the county is benefiting from what I'm calling excess balance interest. And that is the interest that is paid on operational bank accounts for the funds that we hold there. Treasurer and the county pays for banking services through holding compensating balances at bank accounts. And beginning in 2023, banks were some of our operating bank partners has started paying interest on those balances. I believe that is sort of a need to compete with what was going on in the money markets. They were seeing funds leave the bank. So this was it's holding on to this. We've incorporated, that we expect to continue to receive interest earnings on that this year and next year, and incorporated that into our forecast, which I will end this presentation with. So the main note here is that we expect through all of these different asset classes to provide about 11 million to the county in 2024. So that includes all CD and bond interest, money markets, the managed bond funds, and then this newer excess balance interest. And we expect, based on sort of what indications are for rates, is that the Fed will start lowering interest rates later this year, and we will we've sort of flowed that through our forecast into 2024. So you do see somewhat of a decrease in interest or expected interest earnings. We continue to keep that updated as new information becomes available. And my last chart is just to kind of talk through, or is just to show kind of how that 11 million kind of flows through the county and the funds that participate in this pool. So it's just we allocate interest on a monthly basis, and this would be just sort of a pro rata allocation of funds of that 11 million forecasted funds.
Great, thank you so much. So we'll open up for questions. Member Cahill.
Thank you for that presentation.
Thank
It
you.
was excellent. Quick question. On March 10th, the Silicon Valley Bank failed. What is it that you are doing when we invest in these CDs to make sure that our assets at the county are secure and safe?
Oh, okay, thank you for the question. The treasurer has a collateralization policy for bank deposits. So any funds that we have at banks, it's with CDs and also county operating accounts above the 250,000 in FDIC insured levels are collateralized by these banks. So they hold either a line of credit or treasury securities against that so that we have access to those funds if there's trouble with the bank.
Thank you, Member Cahill. Member Krajewski?
I think I may have got the answer right at the end, but
So
my,
you're gonna get for you, but-
no, I, my question is maybe also works with Jeff. We do a cost allocation for all the indirects to all the various departments and enterprise funds here. So for, say, the finance department, et cetera, they do some kind of method, and that would be sometimes they'll do it on the amount of checks written or the amount of staff time written. So they allocate those expenses to all the different departments and those enterprise funds. And you mentioned we have long-term needs or long-term investments because we don't need the money, or we have the liquidity issue where we're investing it in stuff that's more liquid. And I think you said at the end, we just pro rata allocate that 11 million to the various departments versus, i.e. like animal services, who has 5 million sitting in there for a long time that's not going to be needed to build the building, versus the liquidity. Your spread's like 2% in some of the long-term versus short-term money market bond. So we're not doing a direct allocation based on need. So if somebody the money's needed long-term, we don't give them their interest based on that. We just doing it pro rata for the whole.
Right, we look at all of the county funds on a pooled basis. And so to the extent that the funds are not needed in the animal services, they would be receiving sort of an average allocation.
Average allocation, okay, because I know some of the departments, when they get Jeff's bill for, it's the direct cost or indirect cost that's allocated to them, it's kind of high. This is the other side where they would like to have more revenue, but it's a pro rata. So if it's somebody who's got a lot of money sitting in reserves, they're probably getting shortchanged versus the ones that have more liquidity because they're turning money over quick. They're going to, that's just a
Right,
question I would ask. And then who are our bond managers?
Oh, our bond managers, we're working with PFM Asset Management. We're working with Great Lakes Advisors, and that's a organization that's affiliated with Wheaton Bank. And then we also are working with Main Street Advisors, and again, organization affiliated with Fifth Third.
Because you guys are much more experts than me, but it just seems those bond funds are a lot lower just because whether it's 3-year maturity, they got bonds from a couple of years ago where the rates are a lot lower.
Right.
Where the money market sitting down the street is making a lot more. Now, I think if you're right on the Fed's turning, then those bonds are getting out.
Yeah, we hope to provide stable returns for the county with those funds over time, and that's what we utilize the fund manager for.
But does it make sense?
But those funds, but we did place those funds with bond fund managers back last June and July, so rates were lower than when they.
I say, does it make sense to move some of that bond money over to the money market?
What? Well, we,
Move some of that bond money over to the money market? I mean, your spread's like 2%.
We could experience a loss to move it.
Because of
fair market value
So
loss.
They have fees for-
No fair market value in those issues, and you just don't move things quickly.
you can't liquidate the bond
No,
funds
you take
without
cost.
a
And
penalty.
that's part of the problem with the bank in California. They had invested money at a lower rate, and then they didn't have to cover the withdrawals, and they couldn't get out of those investments. And they took a big fair market value like that. On the bonds.
That's
Because they
why,
invested because they thought it looked really good at the time, those payouts, and that's what you have to watch for. We visit and meet with those advisors on a basis, so we're not just having them out there doing things.
so then that's why you said that's the long term, the bonds are more the long term, because we can't go in there really quickly and grab that money
Oh, we
without.
could, but it's gonna be.
It's gonna cost us, it's gonna cost us, so, all right.
So that's why we have it in other places to get it on a quick basis.
And then I think the last question, and it's more with Jeff too, I think I was asking what we budgeted, but it sounded like for the general fund, like about 1.6 6 million, and so we got an extra $1 million that.
Remember when the time of
No, I understand.
projection was made, things were very different.
Right.
And they all very-
Like you mentioned, we hadn't seen this before
We hope
last.
They stay hot.
Oh, no. Maybe. Well, but thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for the chance to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you have questions, give us a call.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. We move on to item B, the American Rescue Plan updates and requests. So our first presentation is going to be our ARPA financial update. Morning, Mary Catherine.
I'm all ready. I am going to be very brief today. I have 2 slides for you. As we get near the end, we're trying to track things obviously a little bit more closely. And so the 2 slides are really where we are now and where we're going to be. Today, we have 3 requests for additional money. So if we could, this first slide shows where we are now. And the most important thing on this slide is $11.8 million. That's our number of what we have to spend still, or to budget. So 11.8 is what we have to work with. And I guess let's go on to the next slide. This slide shows the 3 presentations you're going to see here today. DCVB is requesting 425, DuPage Senior Citizens Council 120, and Conservation Foundation $141,000. So those total 686 on this slide. So like I said, from the first slide, you can see at this top, we're at a 11.8 that's unbudgeted. If you approve all of the ones that are on the agenda for today, then you're going to end up at about $11.2 million. So that's really all I've got. So it's kind of an introduction to the 3 presentations that are going to come, unless there are any questions.
Yeah, I do have a question from Member Schwarzy and Member Dessert. So Member Schwarzy, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up, go back to a request that we had a month or so, maybe a couple months ago, from the Wayne Township Road District. I think they were asking for about $43,000. I was told that by them actually that they were denied, saying that their generator and their touchless door system didn't qualify for ARPA funds. And I just want to follow up with that because I think the Wayne Supervisor's Office got a generator. The road district is considered a COVID first responder, necessary vital worker. So I just wanted to see where we stood with that and why they were turned down.
Well, just to recap what the answer was, we try to, everything that we do has to have a COVID connection. And in this particular case, there wasn't any clear connection with COVID. There are electrical, a lot of places, even here, we have operating expenses or electrical expenses, generator expenses that we might get requests for, but those are systems that aren't clearly tied. They're not HVAC projects. So we reviewed this item with the senior team. We feel at the staff level that it's not eligible. Obviously, the senior team is just one part of this process, and any item that members want to bring forward, we support that. You can certainly bring that back here to the committee.
Well, and I would argue that touchless overhead door systems certainly are COVID related. And again, because they are considered a vital entity, so to speak, certainly keeping them open with a power generator, power goes out would be very similar to what the Wayne Supervisor's Office requested and received. So I would bring it to the chair to reopen this discussion.
Thank you, Member Schwarzy. Yes, I'll
And
talk with.
I don't know if you would want me to make one comment about that, but an automatic garage door that goes for employees to the salt garage. Again, we did look at the request where you have a high volume of people and you have an automatic door coming in and out. That's one thing, but this one we just felt was a stretch.
Okay, we'll discuss it. I'll discuss with finance team. Okay, Greg, we can get you in on that too. Okay.
Thank you,
Um,
Mary Kat.
Member Krajewski,
I
or
believe-
I'm sorry, Member Desart.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Mary Catherine. My question is this, and this came up in a committee last week, and it wasn't definitively answered. A year or so ago, this body voted to take out $10 million for operating and then put it back in, general fund. Right? Does this $11.8 million include that $10 million, or is it, or does it not?
Yeah, let me talk a minute about the standard allowance. So of this $11.8 million, there's originally it was $10 million for the members who weren't here before, but we elected to take the standard allowance. That means that there's $10 million that we can spend on anything that the county can spend things on. So like salaries of the sheriff, salaries, any place, any kind of, almost any kind of expenses except for pension expenses can be spent on the standard allowance. Right now in the balance of here, I know you have your placemat here. So in front of you, the standard allowance expenses.
Okay, so why, if this body agreed to take out that 10 million in standard allowance, why is it still on the sheet? Shouldn't it be off this sheet and because we can spend that on anything? I'm just asking why it's still on the ARPA sheet.
It's still tracked as part of ARPA. We have to, Katrina and I, we work closely on the ARPA reporting. And so it's still part of the overall ARPA approval process.
Okay,
It's
so the
still
answer
going to be part
the
of it.
answer is that yes, the $10 million is part of this 11.8.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Desart. Member Krajewski.
To pick up on Member Desart's question, I've been arguing with this for like months now, that we just get rid of this 10 million. Member Schwarzy could be bringing this thing forward under the 10 million. You could just put, as you said, you referenced the sheriff. That's fine. Use him or use the state's attorney. Just allocate $9 million to the sheriff, be done with it. And then we just we bring the 9 million into our contingency. And then any member like Member Schwarzy who's got an issue, we don't have to spend staff time. Does it fit ARPA guidelines? Does it not fit ARPA guidelines? We hear the presentations at committee meetings. We hear presentations, and I know you guys spend an awful lot of time looking at an item to see whether it qualifies, it doesn't qualify. But let's just save everybody a bunch of time and just, we know you mentioned, you referenced sheriff budget, but it could be somebody else's. Let's just put it in there, and then you'll have your placeholder and be in the gold bar. It's just zero now. And
I'm going to give you a quick answer and then I'm going to look to Nick. But my quick answer is that we want to see what the health department is going to come back and request. So that piece is still out there. The size of that request is going to impact the balance that we have here. We do have a few outstanding requests, but nobody's more sympathetic to spending all the money than I am. So yeah.
If we put it, you said sheriff, we put it in the sheriff's account, that's then taken care of. We then move, we use the money into contingency. If the health department comes to us, Member Schwarzy comes to us, it's in contingency. We do whatever we want with it.
And that, if that's the direction of finance, we can absolutely look at, exchanging funds for the remaining part of the allowance, the 9 million or whatever. And then we'd have to figure out where it would go to. But if that's the direction of the finance committee, we can explore that. Then your balance would be probably south of 2 million when you at it. But that money would be available then in contingency. You are correct. You're absolutely correct. If that's the direction that the finance committee would like to go, we can absolutely explore that.
Because we have money in contingency right now.
We
If
do.
something comes up, we're going right to that contingency
correct.
fund for it. So we might as well just put it in there. And then anything that comes forward, and then Mary Kip, you guys don't have to spend all that time deciding whether it's ARPA qualified or not ARPA qualified.
Yeah, I mean, and that's to Mary Catherine's point. We do know that there is going to be a fairly substantial request coming from the health department within the next 2 months. And that was kind of where it was earmarked. But, at the end of the day, whether it comes from there or comes from contingency, that's the will of the committee, whatever you would like.
Okay. Yeah, and
Contingency in the general fund, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, that is clearly a policy decision of the committee and board. We have to transfer that money to the general fund.
But that's what they're gonna come to us for. If anybody wants something, come to our contingency fund, whether it's another elected official's office, something comes up, we're giving out additional raises, merit, whatever, we're giving it out of contingency.
Wait, hang on, I have a list of people with questions, so hang on a second, I'm writing them all down. Just really quick, also, you know, we do have it looks like 2.2 million in investment income as well.
Well,
That-
one.
The 2.2 million in investment income is what is on the books right now. Ultimately, there's going to be far more than that at the end of the ARPA process.
Right, so,
That is simply what's on the books, and we projected, you know, several million more than that, but obviously we have to see what the rates do. I mean, you saw a very good presentation this morning, and we have worked with the treasurer to get estimates for our interest as well.
we could use that 2.2 million also for a project like
Correct.
Rain. So we
There-
have options, and we'll sit down with finance. If District 6 wants us down with finance, and we can talk about that, that's fine. But we'll readdress that. Okay, so I do have a list of people. So I have Member Garcia.
I just one last.
Oh, I'm sorry, Member
Because I was
Garcia.
picking up that, but just the sanitary, is there an issue at all with them, why they haven't spent so much? I know the townships, parked they all got their money, but I see there's a bunch of unallocated for sanitary districts.
Yeah, they just haven't submitted yet. It's reimbursement based. So
Okay,
we've been in
that's fine.
contact with them.
Okay, let me let Member Desart go ahead.
Okay, it's frustrating, Nick, because this body has already voted on taking that money out and putting it into a contingency fund. So I don't understand why it's still on here.
So
I mean, and I'm
Can I
I'm a
correct
big
that?
fan.
You haven't voted to move it to contingency.
We didn't.
You voted to take the 10 million. You have not voted to move it to contingency yet.
Okay,
If
but
you
we
would like
still,
that moving forward,
Yeah.
we can bring that motion, but you have not voted on
and then we take it out of this
Yes.
fund. I mean, and I'm a big fan of, Mary Catherine said in a committee meeting last week that we don't want to leave any ARPA dollars on the table. And I agree with that 100%. But we're saying that we have, the bottom line is we have less than $2 million left in our ARPA expenditure. Is that right, Nick?
of the original ARPA funds, correct. You have your 10 million, a good portion of that, you have interest. So think of it as 3 buckets. Your original ARPA
Right.
funding, which is the most restrictive. You have the standard allowance, which has some restrictions, and an interest, which is treated exactly like general fund revenue.
Madam Chair, I was wondering maybe next meeting we can vote for sure to put this $10 million in a contingency.
We'll talk with
Fine.
finance and make sure that we have the funds, because as we said, the health department, we can put in contingency and grab it out for the health department, but the health department is going to be coming through with a substantial request. So we have to keep that in mind, and that's, yeah, so, okay. So Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. And that's exactly what I was going to talk about, was that we've got this crisis residential center that was presented to us that we're all so in favor of on this board, that is going to be treating so much with the public health emergency of mental health crisis, which is happening in DuPage County right now. And, you know, at least, you know, I would think this whole 11 million is going to probably be asked for. I know that some of the money which is the ARPA funds has to be spent by 2026. And that's the issue there. So I'm not sure this building's going to be completely built by then. That's going to be part of the problem. So then we're going to be going into the $8 million. So because there is not the restriction of the 2026, if I'm understanding correct.
If you transfer to the general fund, the 2026 restriction goes away.
Right. So I think that's something we need to consider, because I think this is where I think the board was really in favor of. And I think that we need to be really planning ahead for that crisis center, which is so badly needed in DuPage County right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Garcia. Member Cahill.
Thank you. So of course, we don't want the contingency. We don't want 2026 to lose any ARPA funds. But I don't know if I want to support moving the $9 million right away to the general fund. Tell me why would we want to do that other than to have it easily accessible?
So
I like the idea of having staff review these requests from the health department and from other agencies to make sure they meet the ARPA guidelines and everything. I feel like if it's in the general fund contingency, it has less control, maybe less oversight. And I would prefer that it is control and oversight with the staff and then bring it to us for approval.
there might be a middle ground in hearing, and Jeff just mentioned it as well. When the health department comes forward in 2 months, they're gonna have a sizable request at that point. Because as you mentioned, we do anticipate them getting it done before 26, but in order to hedge our bets, we could transfer it at that point into say infrastructure fund. We would have to do some accounting to do that, but after they make the request and if it's approved by the board, you could transfer it in an infrastructure fund. That would give them more time to get it done and you would meet that timeline. And to member Dessart's thing, to request, that would probably satisfy her request as well because you're transferring it. So you could maybe meet all of the requirements once the health department makes the presentation in the next 2 months. The remaining ARPA funds still have to be spent by this board. They have to be allocated by the end of 24, spent by the end of 26. Interest, that is not an obligation, but the remaining ARPA funds, the little bit less than 2 million, you do have an obligation. If you don't spend those, you will lose them. If you do not spend or allocate the standard allowance by the end of 26, you will lose that as well. Unless if you transfer that, you make the accounting transfer and change.
Okay, Member Tornatori.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is a discussion about same pair of pants, different pockets. The reality is that we're going to get a request from the health department. I can assure you that. I don't know that it's going to be $11 million. I don't want anybody to have sticker shock because it may not be that much. The reason I would be against moving it is for the very reason that we heard from Member Schwarzy today. We move it into the general fund, it becomes open season for anybody who wants it. Right now, it's not. Right now, where there are limitations to how we can spend that money. And until we know what the health department's going to need, I'd like to have that somewhat secured to know what we need for the CRC. And then when that's done and we know what we've got left, then anybody can have at it. But right now, I'm just not willing to have that money available to anybody who decides they want it and make it so easily available, even if it's legitimate. And I don't deny that the request may be legitimate from the Wayne Township people. But right now, what's the hurry? Let's wait until we hear from the health department, see what's going on, and have a little bit of control over it. So I'm not in favor of moving it.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Member Krajewski.
Yeah, the only disagreement I have with Member Tornatori, it's actually, this board actually did approve $10 million in revenue replacement, which means that's replaces your revenue. That's general fund item, and that has no strings attached to it. So a board, maybe not everybody that's on this board currently, but we passed $10 million. We didn't pass it to go into contingencies, as you guys, referenced to Member Dessart, but we passed $10 million revenue replacement, which means that goes into the general fund. That's where our general fund revenue goes. So it takes off and it allows Member Schwarzy to come forward on that. The 25 million that's on this ARPA sheet, this placemat, 25 million, is that the care center that we're looking? That's the care center. The unspent 16 million at the health department, do we have an idea? Are they going to be spending all that 16.7 unallocated?
The unallocated and the money you're talking about has to do with the response to COVID. Sure. They are, as part of the request coming in, and Member Tornatori probably has better information, but they are looking at what they no longer need out of that, and they will utilize that first. And that'll be part of the request. They come to you. And so they're looking to drain down everything they've been allocated already, whatever they haven't used. And then anything in excess they need, they will make that request there. And to your point, we will look at it, the board approved the standard deduction. I don't think the board approved using it for revenue replacement or any other option. They absolutely approved the standard deduction, but I'll look at the resolution.
But what is the standard deduction? The standard deduction was automatically $10 million for revenue replacement. If you couldn't show your revenue was decreased, you couldn't take revenue replacement. Our revenues went up, but you could take the standard deduction of 10 million for revenue replacement.
That previous board, it was probably this time last year when we took this standard allowance, was concerned about increasing our general fund balance. We didn't want to increase it anymore over the $100 million that we had. That was a long discussion. So really, it's my strong recollection that the only thing we did was take the standard allowance without transferring it to the general fund.
Then do you have a liability out there for, because if we took the standard, so we whether we move the money or not, we took the standard allowance, 10 million for revenue replacement.
But yeah, the standard allowance now in ARPA would give us the flexibility to do what Member Schwarzy was talking about, things like that.
And that was the whole discussion why when we approved it, we didn't have the ARPA guidelines.
Yeah, so it's just this board or this committee needs to make a decision with what direction you want to give staff. Do we, and does that happen now, or does that happen once we hear from the health department? And then at that point, we button up all the remaining, avenues where we go, and then we have strict ARPA left. Those are the questions. I mean, we can bring back a resolution in 2 weeks that says, transfer the 10 million. I don't think there's an urgency to do that right now until we hear what the health department needs.
I think, do we want to get a general, members A, let members A, and then we'll do a general consensus. Okay, members A, go ahead,
Chair.
please.
We're creating a feeding frenzy. I mean, we're just gonna have, revenue replacement, whatever you call it. We're talking about revenue replacement when we have tens of millions of additional sales tax that we had on top of it. So how can we do that? If we keep it where it is, if we put it into our reserves, you're gonna open us up to tax objections again at that point if we go higher and higher. So keeping it in this fund right now probably is the safest thing to do instead of bringing it over. And again, if a member has an initiative they want to bring through, we still have additional sales tax money that they can bring it forward to. I don't want to say that something was brought forward and it just, the optics is bad. Well, it didn't qualify for ARPA funding, so I'm going to bring it back another way just because it's a project I want. Every board member is going to want to do that at that point. This is the safer way. Revenue replacement, I think, is a horrible way to say it when we have additional tens of millions of dollars in sales tax. Keep it where it is. Let's wait and see what we have when the health department comes, and then we can move forward at that. But again, we didn't put it as revenue replacement. We just took that standard deduction before we could basically lose it, right?
The meeting you approved the standard deduction was the very last meeting to do it. So that's why the board made that decision to take that standard deduction. If it wasn't done at that time, that window closed at that meeting.
So if you got to blame anybody, it was the last finance chair. Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to just get consensus right now with these funds. Do we want to hold them until the health department comes forward? Okay, so we have consensus on that. Okay, so we're going to hold off. After the health department comes, we'll make a decision if there's any funds left. So, all right, great. Thank you so much, Mary Catherine. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation is the DuPage County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Morning, Beth.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you. I'm going to try to go fast. I'm Beth Marchetti, Executive Director of the DuPage Convention and Visitors Bureau. Been around since 1987, our organization. I have been with the organization since the year 2000 and the director since 2014. So had to think about that for a little while. Want to thank this board for helping us with the hotel assistance program, with the marketing program that we did with Choose DuPage and the CMAP program. So thank you for the last year's board and for knowing about this year. So tourism in DuPage. I'm not sure if I'm working here.
If not, you could just say next.
Next slide, please. Tourism in DuPage is a very important sector of economic development. It is a $2.9 billion industry. We don't have beaches and mountains. What we have is meeting spaces, group business, and sports. In 2019, we launched a sports commission. That's okay. I'm going to keep going. We launched a sports commission and obviously 2019, then 2020 hit. So we had a little hiccup there in terms of pausing, but we are back strong. We are getting DuPage County out on a national level and delighted to do so. So I'm really thrilled to talk to you about what our ask is today. We had a slide that showed some of the big sports things that have come to DuPage County, including cyclocross. We're going to go 3 slides ahead, please. That's okay. 3 slides ahead. Thanks. Sports, TYR Pro Swim Series that had it just happened last weekend. We had 70 Olympians here. 40 of them were international. So we were really delighted. 3 weeks ago, we also had artistic swimming. So there's just been a lot of sports that we've been able to bring to DuPage County. Next slide, please. I think many of you saw this at the EDC meeting. It's a video. If you don't mind, we're just going to skip it due to timeliness for everybody else.
Thank you.
So today what our ask is $425,000. I will tell you that we are state grant funded. We have not been able to secure any bid fee private sector grants since 2019. The hotel tax fund has not been at the state level to level those grants. So that's why we're here today asking for some assistance with these bid fees. Everything that I've asked for, it has a touch on multi-communities, thousands of hotel rooms, and millions of dollars of economic impact. So the first ask today is $75,000 for TNBA bowling. TNBA is the National Bowling Association. We are going next month to Atlanta and making a pitch. You can see some of the competition, the competitors there. I will tell you in the last 24 hours, Minneapolis has come in and they are the top competitor. The reason being, they were able to negotiate better rates with their bowling facility, better rates on their hotels. That's why you need the Convention and Visitors Bureau that is fighting the collective total bid, including all those pieces that I talked about. This tournament will be coming in 2024. Does anybody else have COVID brain? I do. 2024 and 2028. But my ask is different than it was a couple months ago in working with the finance team that we really wanted to have all of our events through 2025. So for today, I'm asking for just 2024. So again, that's a $75,000 ask. My next ask, next slide, please, is $100,000 for Junior Gold. Junior Gold, if you'll recall, we had it in 2015. We had 10,200 contracted rooms. The competitors that we constantly fight with is Reno, Nevada, because they built a facility strictly for tourism. Indianapolis, Tampa, Tulsa, Allen, Texas. Again, I talked about the Illinois Office of Tourism private sector grant that was not available right now. So we're coming to the county and asking for that. Trust me when I tell you, if those grants do become available, I will continue to ask for those. But right now we have to make a decision to be able to go to bid. This would be for 2025, and the ask is $100,000 for that. Just real quickly, the next slide, please. I wanted to show you the impact of Junior Gold in 2015. It's probably hard to see, but we had teams from every single state, including Mexico, Canada, and some Europe countries. And if you look at the graph to the left, when post survey to the participants, we found out that they stayed on average 6 to 8 days. So those are really important numbers for our hotel properties as they are recovering still. The next slide is an ask for $150,000 that would be able to pay for the gap in lineage fee for Stardust Bowl Addison. As you know, we set the precedent and we've been able to help the FMC Natatorium. This would be able to help the Stardust Bowl Stadium, as they're now called. And if you haven't been there, it's the only bowling facility in the country that has all those lanes under one consecutive roof. So this is an important, they've done a lot of upgrades to make them more tournament ready. So we would be working with them. In fact, Jim Saffold and Henry Barber, the owner, will be going to Atlanta with us to make this pitch. So when we can come in with extra gap in that lineage fee, this is really going to help with multiple tournaments. So we wanted to throw that out there too. Next slide really quickly, and then go another one. Again, we've been able to get this on the national level. Next slide, please, with different tournaments that we've been able to launch. This one is for water polo, which would be at the FMC Natatorium in Westmont. Why we need this money is we can either get 48 teams or we can get 60 teams, but with 60 teams, which would be bigger and more across the country domestically and probably internationally, we need to rent at least 2 to 3 other pools. That would be on the backs of the Sports Commission and the CVB. So this ask would be in conjunction with the FMC's money and our marketing money to help with the other rentals of the venues. So that's a $50,000 ask. Possibly they would be in Hinsdale and surrounding areas as well. So those pools would be local as well. Next slide, please. Esports. For those of you who may have seen Weston Lombard in January of this year, packed. This tournament has grown and grown and grown and has not threatened, but is outgrowing the space that we have in DuPage County. They could go to Rosemont next year. They could go to the Renaissance Schaumburg. So what we have proposed to them is if we provide transportation and they can go to multiple hotels, they would stay here again. In addition, you can only imagine hundreds and hundreds of computers that are e-gaming. We need some help with the broadband on that to really up that up. Get that so that we can secure all those esports games. So the ask there is for $50,000. Next slide, please. So again, the total is $425,000. There is some really great national press that we've got just for even esports. I'd like to also think about any questions that you might have before. If we don't win the bid, this money will not be expended. That's how it works for state grants. That's how it works everywhere. So again, if we lose it to Tulsa or another city, that money's not expended. It would go back to the county. We continue to get, and I know Mr. Krajewski here, I talked to him about this. The communities already have a grant program and already help support us. So the USBC Bowling that booked 18,000 hotel rooms, Lombard, Downers Grove, Oak Brook, all of those communities that benefited from their hotel rooms being filled, helped us with those bid fees. So we will still get the buy-in from our communities. And again, as I said, state grants, we will still go after those for marketing and other things to help with making this a bigger tournament schedule. But that would be my ask for today. So $425,000. Any questions for me?
Okay, we do have a couple of questions. I have member Eckhoff, member Desart, member Yu, member Zay. Go ahead, member Eckhoff.
You said that the local communities are kicking in money for the bid fee. So is the amount of money that you put for a bid fee up here the total amount, or is that just our portion?
This is just your portion. The money that the municipalities put in is to help the hotel rooms with rebates, help with transportation, help with the other marketing pieces. Bleachers, media tents, security, all those other
So
things.
that's if they put their money in, if we get the bid.
Yes.
But they're not putting any money in for the bid.
Separate of the ARPA money, the communities are helping us make our regular state grant match. So they're already contributing. So this would be up in addition to that. But they will still continue to contribute as well.
All right, I'm losing you because a couple of these were 100,000 a pop, 50,000 a pop, which, and if we don't win the bid, we lose the money.
No,
Comes back.
yes. That's why I said this
Makes
is a
me
no
feel
risk
little bit
ask.
better.
Okay, thank you, member Eckhoff, member Desart.
Yeah, after the meeting last week, that was my question too. I thought it was like a college admission, money that we lost if we didn't get it. But Beth said that we do get it back. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we do win the bid and we spend $100,000 on the bid, that money is used as the CVB's sponsorship. So we get our name all over the event. Is that true? Gotcha. And I did want to make a comment to my colleagues who weren't with us back in 2020 when the pandemic began. And that is when we received the Federal CARES Act money, it was for healthcare and PPE and the emergency happening right now. But I want to let my colleagues know that when we received the federal ARPA funds, the guidance was for getting our economy back and going and, getting it on track, infrastructure, tourism, moving our economy forward. Stormwater was a big part of the guidance as well. So however you care to vote on this allocation, it is firmly within the the wheelhouse of the ARPA funds.
We,
Thank you.
we did get eligibility from the finance team, and in the ARPA guidelines, it actually spells out for hard hit industries such as hospitality and tourism. That is actually in the federal guidelines. Thank you.
Yeah, I believe finance, they vetted all of these to make sure they were ARPA eligible before we brought them forward. So yes, so thank you. We have member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned economic impact earlier. Could you just remind me, for every dollar that we spend in these bid fees or otherwise supporting the DCVB, how much money do we get back as our ROI?
There's a 10 to 1 ROI. We calculate that with our National State Association. What I really want to talk about is the hotels are the big benefit factor, right? But it's also supporting small businesses. And I think several of you were at our tournaments, and you can see that those people are spending the night having to eat meals, filling their car with gas, going to Target. So those are all, and then generating sales tax revenues. And then obviously state taxes and local taxes as well. So that's a great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Member Zay and then member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you go, I was confused on the Stardust one. There was no date mentioned on that. What is that 150,000 actually for?
The Stardust is, the precedent has been set when we gave FMC, when the county decided to vote on FMC natatorium to give them $150,000. We are asking for the same, those are the two venues that our sports study demonstrated that they're true tourism worthy. So we're making the same ask for Stardust Bowl as well.
We set a precedent. We had a place where we thought we could do that. So what are they going to use that money for?
Same thing with other tournaments that they have. I asked for the multi impact tournaments. They would use it for lineage to make the gap. What I didn't talk about was, you know, the organizer might want $6 a lane, what's called a lineage fee. I'm sorry, the owner might need $6 a line to displace other business. The organizer only wants to pay $4. So the money would be used for the $2 gap. That would be at their discretion in working with us.
So how do we have any control on that if he doesn't get any?
That's why I would rather.
Fails on that.
We did talk about that at economic development. I would just like we were doing with the natatorium, I would prefer to have it run through the CVB so that I can report to you what was being used and do the economic impact reports for that.
Okay. And then I remember Eckhoff kind of brought up, can we get a breakdown of actually, I've got no problem helping, but when you say all these other events are, nothing in my area. I mean, I ain't getting much on economic impact. I'd like to see what those local communities actually are doing, who are getting the most benefit. The county, obviously, we're all getting the benefit, but those local communities are getting that benefit. Can we get a breakdown of actually what their expenses are and what they are actually putting in? And I know the state passed a huge convention and tourism bill. I mean, what part are we getting out of it?
We are not a disproportionate area. So unfortunately, every grant that I've applied for, we haven't received a single one. So they're going to other communities. The $10 million that was just allocated is for festivals and events. Those were approved in Rockford and Peoria, and a lot of the other areas received those grants. Some of our partners did. We did get Cosley Zoo got some to help their parking lots. Naples Settlement got a grant. So there are, but they're not really for convention bureaus. They're for our attractions and communities to help with festivals and events.
Okay. Can I ask one question off the topic a little bit?
Yeah.
Heard the DNC is coming. Is DuPage gonna be part of the pool for hotels?
We've already reached out to the organizers. What we think we're going to get is the displacement, actually the higher corporate business, which we would love to get. But we are going to be working with Chicago. In fact, we have a meeting with them today to talk about if there's overflow hotels, and not everyone's going to be able to afford a $400 or $500 hotel room downtown, right? So we're going to be a great, or wants to stay downtown. So we're going to be a great alternative for that. So we're going to try to capture as much as we can for that.
Well, usually at a convention, they will book hotels by state. That's how they do it. So I would hope that we could possibly, you know,
absolutely,
at least get a few. I'm not saying a lot.
Absolutely.
Be part of the process.
For
Thank
sure.
You. Thank you.
Thank you, member Zay. Member Krajewski.
Thank you. And you mentioned about the ROI and the return is big on investment. It's we, the county here doesn't get much, but we, the DuPage County, the other municipalities do benefit substantially. We don't have a hotel tax, but all the towns that the hotels are in, they benefit substantially from an event coming. And same with food and beverage, people shopping, sales tax. The villages have not only the sales tax, which is much higher than ours, many of them have home rule sales tax on top of the regular sales tax. And many like Lombard, Downers, Broken, Naperville, they all have food and beverage tax on top of the regular tax. So they're all the direct benefactors. The bowling alley, which is a great venue and a great event. And I guess Addison's my question. How much is Addison putting in? Because they're going to be the biggest benefactor on being the bowling alley right there. And when they go out to eat, they're going to go the closest place to the venue, which means Addison. And I know talking to Mayor Beanstreet, our intergovernmental, a year ago, he said for 3 weeks, he couldn't even get into a restaurant because everything was back. So the village of Addison, what are they putting in?
So for Women's Open, as I said, we had 4 communities that all pitched in $50,000. So for $200,000 to help us make the bid.
So Addison's putting 50,000 in?
Addison, we will go to the communities again to help make match. Absolutely.
So Addison, what have they committed so far?
I haven't gone to them. We needed to make sure that we got the big chunk here from the county level, and then I will match. That's why I was going to say we'll be able to match with our local communities.
Well, I guess, I mean, I would like to do this, but I'd also like to know what Addison's going to do.
Well, our municipalities will say they consistently contribute to helping the Bureau with match funds already. So,
Well, but then they have hotels, so they get a hotel tax and they
Understand.
contribute. We don't have a hotel tax.
I understand.
We have ARPA money, which we're going to use. They also have ARPA money.
Not every community got ARPA money though.
Yes, every community got ARPA.
Okay.
Everyone got ARPA money. If it was less than over 50,000 people or 25,000 people, they all got it directly from the federal government. And then the rest went through the state. The first time under CARES, Governor Pritzker kept the DuPage, Lake County, all the municipalities allocation of CARES money. ARPA, many municipalities got the direct at DuPage, the other ones that came from the state. So they all got ARPA. Same ARPA money we got based on population.
Well, like Oak Brook doesn't have a sales, food and beverage tax. So there's
sales
everybody varies. Of
They have a
course,
sales
of
tax,
course.
And
of
their sales
course.
tax is bigger than the counties. They have hotel tax that's more than the county. We don't have a hotel.
And Oak Brook
tax.
contributed to both the LTC grant that we
Well,
get and
Focus
our
on
tournaments.
Addison because they're the biggest benefactor. Just like when we went, the county went to the natatorium, the first call I made was to the mayor of Westmont, bring him in. I'm like, you're going to be the biggest benefactor. So you need to put some money up. We're willing to do it, and he made that commitment and they put up money to do stuff for the natatorium to get the event that they just had.
We launched a grant program and every single municipality has contributed to that.
No, I'm focused on Addison because that's where the biggest.
Addison has
impact
2
is.
hotels. They won't be able to gather that much hotel tax. So Oak Brook, Oak Brook Terrace, Itasca, all the other communities will benefit.
We
as
don't
well.
have a hotel tax either. So we're the same as Addison. We don't have one. They don't have one. They have a sales tax. We have a sales tax. They're going to be the biggest benefactor because that's where everybody's going to stop. It's not just hotel tax. It's also where they're going to be shopping, where they're going to be eating at. And the closest places they're going to eat are next door to the event. I'm all for the bowling alley. It's going to bring a lot of people in, but I think Addison needs to come to the table also and help with this program because they're the biggest benefactor.
And we will
Yes,
go,
the
we will go to them
hotelers,
again.
They don't have the hotels, so they're going to be staying in
Okay.
other towns.
Okay, guys, we have 2 other presentations that we have to get through. What do we want? Do we want to give consensus on this one or what do we want to do with this one? Do we want to get more information from the communities or are you guys comfortable with moving forward?
Yeah, can we table this for additional information? Because I have some questions also, and I don't want to take the time here.
Okay.
So if you can give us, that.
I will tell you that we will lose
Like to the
TNBA.
next
We will lose some of these
meeting.
tournaments. We are already like days away from going to bid with these. I want to make sure everyone knows that.
No, we're just giving consensus.
That's
Yeah,
the
we're just giving
National Bowling
consensus.
Association.
We're just giving consensus to move forward. So members,
Yeah, if we're gonna lose the bet, I would rather us okay that one bet and then get additional information if that's possible.
Okay. It is, but we're giving consensus, right? If we want to move forward with this or not. So that's all we're doing, giving consensus. Member Glossy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to say, I did, as well as a few other members here, visit the natatorium when the synchronized swimming was there, as well as the TYR event. And I know you visited the bowling alley, and I do definitely appreciate what this does for the community, especially with the, you know, the hotel business still being down, and with the 10-1 ROI, I do support this going forward. So I just wanted to state that.
Okay, so we're gonna put this forward. We can get questions into Beth and get those answered. Because then we'll be taking a formal vote on it in a couple weeks or whenever we bring it back. So we'll have more time to ask about this. Is just getting the formal, the consensus to move forward. We have that from everyone. Okay, all right. So we have that one moving forward. Okay, thank you, Beth.
Thank you very much.
The next item we have is a DuPage Senior Citizens Council. Yeah, oh yeah, come on. Hey, Marilyn. Thanks. We have Marilyn. Good morning, Marilyn.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. It's been a long morning for you, and I would appreciate just a few more minutes of your patience. I've got about 8 slides. I just want to frame a story on a very simple ask. There's 2 asks. There's support for the long term, and there's a short-term ask that involves money, $120,000 to continue a program. So let me introduce myself. I'm Mary Lynn Krolak. I'm the Executive Director of the DuPage Senior Citizens Council. We've been around since 1975, and since the early 80s have been the nutrition provider for home delivered meals and community dining in DuPage County. We partner and work collaboratively with DuPage County Community Services and Senior Services Group. I'm here today to talk about the 5-pack meal pickup event. Next slide, please. So during COVID, within 2 months, and we were deemed an essential service, we never closed our doors. But within about 2 months of COVID, there fell out of the cracks a huge group of seniors that were over 60, but they did not qualify for the usual programs under the Older Americans Act. This group was about at poverty, below poverty, and they were extremely insecure, food insecure. To accommodate this group, we created the drive-through events. And these events occurred twice a month through COVID, and they're still happening. And they serve the need and address food insecurity for this group. Next slide, please. Very simply, you can take a look at how it works. At these events, older adults come, they drive up in their cars. We ask for, they are all citizens of DuPage County. We ask for their first and last name. They're on a checklist. And then volunteers help pass out a 5-pack of frozen meals. They put them directly in the back seat or the car. There's a little bit of maybe a minute or 2 interaction with the senior. Many of our seniors actually are in tears because it's the only food that they're getting, and they've come to rely on it. Next slide. A little bit about the meals, what they look like, and you can see on the screen, they're 5-pack frozen meals. They are made fresh by a commissary that is licensed to create meals that are 1/3 of the daily recommended allowance for seniors over 60. They come in traditional American fare. You can see there's ravioli, broccoli, carrots. That, of course, is accompanied with a bread and, of course, milk. It's 1/3 of a regular meal for a senior. We also, in DuPage County, our largest underserved minority is the South Asian. So we also have those available in that bill of fare, which you're looking at, I think, is chicken biryani. of course, the meals are life sustaining and they, save lives. These older adults, again, do not fall into the typical programs, community dining or home delivered, but they are low income, they are disabled, and they do not have enough money to pay for food or to have a food delivery. One of the things I want to call your attention to again, I've mentioned it twice already, is that this group does not meet the criteria for the regular Older Americans Act program. And they're going to slip back to where they were before the pandemic. While this group is not pronounced in other parts of the state, they are in DuPage County. They are right here. There are neighbors, our seniors here. And I am going to ask for an amount of money, but I am also going to ask you to help us advocate with the Illinois Department on Aging so that they recognize that this county has this group. And as they find funds for seniors, that they find a little bit of funds to take care of this group in the future. Next slide. So the funds for this program, for the food, was made available through the public health emergency. So we're pulling back now from that. In fact, on May 11th, that funding will stop. And those seniors will no longer be eligible. They will be forced back into the regular two groups, either home delivered meals or community dining. It is my guess that about 10% may qualify for home delivered meals. The rest won't. And that's my concern. Next slide, please. Here's the simple, there's one with some circles on it. That kind of looks like this, the big one, there it is. The cost of this program and the math is simple. So what does it cost? We are asking for $120,000. And that is for, the meals are $5. There's 5 in a box. There's 25 per box. While there are 700 unduplicated seniors in this program, we average about 300, 350 that come every other Saturday. So 5 times the 25 times the 300, May through December, we're looking at $120,000. The other cost involved for staff, for just administration, DuPage Senior Citizens Council will use our unrestricted fundraising that we do each year, every year, to meet the overall our budget. We're only asking you for the cost of the food. Next page. It's who we are and what we do. Since 75, we've been a volunteer-driven, proactive organization. And we've been advocating since that time to take care of seniors who live in DuPage County. And I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Member Guston, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for what you do. I am one of the participants of your Dancing with the Stars fundraise program. And it was quite an event and everybody had a wonderful time and raised a lot of money for your organization. I wholeheartedly support giving you the $120,000 to continue your efforts because I really do think, our seniors are part of the very vulnerable sector of our community. So thank you so much for coming here today. And I'll support seeing this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Guston. Member Schwarzy.
Thank you. It's me over here. Thank you very much for your presentation. A couple questions. So why does this group not qualify for some of the other programs like Meals on Wheels or in dining services? Is it age? Is it income?
A little bit of both. Some of them are under 60. The Older Americans Act addresses people over 60. And for home delivered meals, that is a holistic approach. And that is done through community services, senior services. It's about a 36-page assessment, and home delivered meals is just part of it. It takes a long time to get that done. And while you're waiting for that, these people are going to slip through the cracks, and they might not be able to be deemed eligible anyway. Some of them are disabled, mildly disabled, and they don't necessarily qualify for programs that are being offered through those resources. I did mention there's a short-term ask, but there's a long-term goal. In other states, they identified the shortfall for those individuals that just don't cut it for this program or don't cut it for the other. And in this state, and certainly in this county, we have them. And probably because of COVID and just trying to get the job done on all levels, we just need to find someone who can lobby to get to the right person down there in Springfield and let them know that we do have this group here in DuPage. DuPage is not Southern Illinois. It's not Central Illinois. We're not Chicago. You cannot help seniors by strictly a cookie cutter solution. And these people are falling through the cracks, and there should be some funds that could be made available to DuPage County or another county that might need it to fund these resources on a long term.
Thank you. My next question is, so
Greg, we have to kind of move it along because I have another presentation, executive session. We got to start county board. So one more question. I got to get to member Garcia, and then we're going to wrap it up. Go ahead though.
okay, thank you. So how do you verify the people that participate in this program? Could it be the same people that also receive in-home services or Meals on Wheels, or how do you verify the population that?
By virtue of the fact that they're in our database, and we take a copy of their driver's license to prove that they are DuPage County residents, and then they are in our database, and they are not also getting the duplicate services.
Thank you, member Schwartz. Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for taking care of the food insecure. It's a passion of mine also. My concern is that your meals are only give them 1/3 of their food required for the day. When you are dealing with the seniors that you are dealing with, are you giving them information about the food pantries that are nearby so that they can go to get those? Okay, so there is some kind of cooperation between so they can get other food so that they can make it through the 2
Oh, yeah,
weeks.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We are a vested partner with all sources within DuPage County and have been for years. And any information like that, which is also for them specific to the town or municipality they live in, we're making that available to them.
Perfect. And the food being given out, is it all over the county or is it just in specific spots?
We were doing it in 2 specific spots. We were doing it at the Abington in unincorporated Glen Ellen, and then we were doing it right here in the parking lot adjacent to the jail. So right here, one of those pictures you see was right here. We set up twice a month on Saturday.
Yeah, I would love to see this spread out more over the county. I think that since people have a harder time driving, it would be nice to have it spread out into all of our districts. So if that's something we could discuss down the road, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can, yes, and we can tailor this program, any way that, we work with Senior Citizens Council, and we can tailor it any way that we want to, if we want to change it up a little bit, we have the volunteers to do it, we can do that. Member Garcia, thank you for asking those questions. Those were my exact questions. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've actually worked many of your events here, and the people are so grateful to get this. Like you said, many of them are crying. It's their only food that they're getting. And everybody that comes through the line, your staff know the people when they come. And my challenge to this board is this is 120,000 from May to December. I don't think that's enough. I think we should bump it to 240,000 and give them a year's worth of food. So they have to come back to us after the holidays and say, hey, we still are having this problem. And we have money, we're helping the seniors. And again, this is a program that works. Works here, it's well run. I can tell you when you come here, the people come in and out. And again, they're so grateful to the people and your staff does a great job with them. Again, I think it's a great cause and that we should step up a little bit. I think 120 is not enough. We should double that so they can get through a year at least. So they're not back here at the first of the year again, asking us for this funding.
Okay. Okay, I'll agree. Okay. So we have our instructions, 240, and we'll bring this back. We have a consensus to move forward with this. Thank you very much, DuPage
I
Senior
thank
Citizen
you. And
Council.
don't forget, we need your help.
Yes.
To get the message for
Legislative-
continued funding for this.
Legislative Committee, Don, we'll get that on the agenda. Yeah. Okay, we move on to our next. We've got our next and final presentation, the DuPage Conservation Foundation. Come on up, Brooke. Morning.
Thank you, Madam
Okay, guys,
Chairman.
come on. We got
Yeah.
business here.
I want to respect your time because I know you have a 10 o'clock meeting, so I'm going to go through the slides quick, but I don't want to rush. Again, I'm Brooke McDonald, President and CEO for the Conservation Foundation. Next slide, please. I want to thank all of you for allowing us to come today. I also want to thank the staff from the county for helping us take all of our ideas we had and paring it down to two that fit nicely into the ARPA guidelines. For those of you who don't know us, we've been around for more than 50 years. We're a 501c3. Our mission is to preserve and restore land, clean up our rivers and streams. We've been very proud to be working with Mr. Zay and the Stormwater Committee for more than 20 years on doing education outreach on water quality and water management throughout the county. Our third area is promoting stewardship, doing a lot of education and outreach. And what a lot of people don't know us for is that we own and operate an organic vegetable farm in Naperville, and we've been supplying organic vegetables for families throughout the community for more than 20 years. Next. We are accredited with the Land Trust Accreditation Commission and also a 4-star charity rated organization. Next slide, please. Our proposal really is two components, food insecurity and mental health. Both have been made worse through COVID. Next slide, please. Addressing food insecurity, because we've been growing organic vegetables on the farm in Naperville for many, many years. We have formed a partnership with 5 food pantries in Eastern DuPage County, sort of as sort of a pilot project. We'd like to do more of this in the future. We'll be growing organic vegetables fresh. By fresh, I mean we pick it one day and it's delivered to the food pantry the very next day. And this is nutritious and clean food. By clean, I mean it's grown organically, sustainably with clean water and clean soil. So no pesticides, no chemicals or anything like that. We'll be able to produce food for 200 families per week during the 20-week growing season each year for the next 2 years. That's approximately 30,000 pounds of fresh produce over 2 growing seasons to the 5 food pantries. The cost is about $93,000 over the 2 years, which is $3.12 a pound. Next slide, please. As you know, food insecurity is a problem. It's been made worse by COVID. About 10% of the more people in DuPage County because of COVID need food assistance. The stores are holding on to the produce longer, which means by the time the food pantries get it, it's less fresh and the shelf life has been diminished. Our food, again, is picked one day, delivered to the food pantry the next day. Next slide, please. Our partners for this is Itasca Cares Food Pantry, Roselle United Methodist Church Food Pantry, Vincentville Wooddale, Elmhurst Yorkville, Wooddale Food Pantry. And for the past 20 years, we've also been providing fresh vegetables to Loaves and Fishes, and we'll continue to do that as well. Next slide, please. Okay, the second part of our proposal is focusing on improving mental health, particularly with teens and young adults. Mental health, again, has been made worse because of COVID. So what we want to do is connect with 500 teens and young adults through 25 tailored programs where we will be designing nature therapy sessions with these youth. A variety of different programs, mental health, mindfulness, nature experiences. The whole idea here is to design outdoor nature experiences with youth that help with positive mental outcomes. We're fortunate that on our staff, we have expertise in this area, and through our partners, we also have expertise. Since 2018, we've been forming the DuPage Nature RX Coalition, which is more than 20 organizations in DuPage County from the health and wellness field, from youth services, and from nature-based organizations. So we have lots of access to people that have expertise in helping using the outdoors and nature to help develop positive mental outcomes for youth. The cost for the program over 2 years is $48,000. Next slide, please. I'm sure you know, young people today are facing high stress and a lot of problems due to isolation and COVID. And what we have been learning over the past 20 years is that there is a direct correlation between spending time outside in nature and feeling better and just being healthier. The research is crystal clear that when you spend time outdoors in nature, you feel better. It's better for your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. And there's a lot of research that proves that. So we want to take advantage of that. We've been working on this since 2018. And so the funding will help provide some seed money so we can expand this program into the future. Next slide, please. Here are our partners, the Alive Center out of Naperville, Glen Ellen Children's Resource Center, and the Turning Point Autism Foundation. We also will be working with the DuPage County Forest Preserve District, using their properties, using their facilities, and they've also offered a number of their staff to help with this program moving forward. And last slide, this is our detailed budget. The total ask is $141,677 over 2 years. We have our own money we're putting in, about $50,000 to help with some infrastructure improvements at the farm to allow us to scale up the production so we can get the food, the fresh organic produce to the food pantries. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And I have staff here too that are here as well.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. I'm just going one comment first. So thank you. This outdoor RX program, I really like it. I think, as we've heard about children with mental health issues, a lot of it is social media. I think, getting them out into nature, getting them off the social media is really a great path. And I hope if this is successful, you can continue and grow it. And I think it's a really good step forward.
Thank you. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. Okay. So Member Galassi, Member Guston, Member Evans, Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I like to echo that as far as the outdoors space for the, just to help treat the youth with the mental health issue. I fully support that. And I also fully support the growing of the vegetables for the food pantries. I just wanted to kind of echo what Member Garcia asked the previous presenter. Is there any way, it didn't look like you were supporting any food pantries in the District 3 area. Is there any way that we could add them?
Well, right now we have a partnership with 5. And we're doing this in cooperation with Itasca Bank. Itasca Bank is celebrating their 75th anniversary this year. And so they approached us with helping to grow vegetables for the 5 food pantries in their area. So this is sort of the pilot. Absolutely, we want to expand this in the future because we're able to increase our infrastructures through some other funding that we've acquired. We're going to be able to scale this up and expand this. I mean, ultimately, the goal is to do this countywide. And, this is simply to augment the kind of food that you guys have already approved through the Northern Illinois Food Bank to all the food pantries. So it would be nice to be able to augment that with locally grown, organically certified fresh vegetables. So that's our goal, is to scale this up.
Thank you, Member Galassi. I have Member Guston.
Thank you very much. I love the Conservation Foundation. As you know, I am all about the nature. And I think this really will benefit our young people mentally, being out and away from the computers. Also, there's 2 other groups, Kids Matter, and then also the DuPage Children's Museum is now looking into these types of components to be able to teach skills to students and kids to be able to deal with the stress. So if you'd reach out to them and have them be part of your program, I'm sure that
we've been talking to the Children's Museum. Absolutely.
I'm sure they'd be great, and Kids Matter. I am 100% behind this. So I'd love to see it move forward.
Thank you, Member Guston. Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I'm trying to look over here. I echo Member Galassi's question. I love McDonald Farm. I actually participate in the CSA. The fresh fruits and vegetables are amazing. And I do think that it would be wonderful if you could expand, especially in District 3, we do have a neighborhood where it is a food desert. This is the highest concentration of low income families in DuPage County, and it would be just so wonderful to bring fresh fruits and
Okay.
vegetables to them.
Well, we'll look at that. I mean, that I've heard this from both of you now. So now, thank you. Thank you for bringing
Thank
that
you.
to our attention. We will absolutely look into that.
Thank you, Member Evans. Member Zay.
Well, join District 6 to that list because, you know, we have a lot of low income areas, Carroll Stream, Hanover Park, West Chicago, and Warrenville that could use this. And we know Wayne Township is very active with their food pantry and they go through a lot to get fresh vegetables. And again, if we could expand this to, you know, include other areas besides district, you know, those ones in District 1, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think once we get some of our infrastructure improvements that the farm made, we'll be able to scale this up. So yes.
Okay, Member Eckhoff, Member Schwartz, and then Member Childress.
I echo what everybody says about all these good programs and that we're helping a lot of people who need help. My concern is it seems to be that every organization is getting into every one of these. Everybody's getting into mental health or food pantries and things like that. And sometimes I question whether or not we're spending too much on administration, whereas some of that money we streamlined it a little bit more could go to help the people who need it more. So, you know, that's why I've talked about 7 or 8 boards instead of having one in every township. We should have a county one. And it just seems to me, and maybe Mary Keating could give us a report or the health department on mental health services. But when everybody is getting into it, I just don't know if we're spending too much on administration and where we could spend more on helping people.
Thank you, Member Eckhoff. Member Schwartz.
Thank you. And ditto on the concern for making sure District 6 and the other districts get represented. But because Itasca Bank and Trust is so-called the sponsor of this, how much money are they putting into this?
Okay, so Itasca is one of our partners. They were the ones that originally came up with the idea. And between the bank and some of their customers, they've been able to raise nearly $50,000 to help us build the infrastructure to allow us to scale this up and do it. So without the ARPA funds, we have to use that $50,000 for the food, which scales it down and is only good for 1 year. So by using their money for the infrastructure, using ARPA money for the food, we're able to do it for 2 years and then create the infrastructure to make it more sustainable.
And so my comment would be a way to, you know, if we increase, what if DuPage County spent $50,000 to help with the infrastructure? Would we be able to expand this to our other, you know, our entire county? And so I think that's something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Schwartz. Member Childress, then this is the last question. So Member Childress, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to echo the fact that we're doing the food making in my district, which is good, but I didn't see anything to address the outdoor space in the northern parts of DuPage County.
I'm sorry, what was the last part of your question?
The outdoor spaces that you talked about for mental health. I didn't see anything in District 1 in the northern part, northeastern part of DuPage County.
Well, the outdoor experiences that we're going to do with the kids will be throughout the entire county. So we'll be utilizing the forest preserves, we'll be utilizing the East and West Branch, the DuPage rivers. We're going to utilize all of the wonderful natural assets that we have in DuPage County to immerse these kids in these outdoor experiences. So it's not just going to be in those communities where the organizations are from.
Okay, thank you, Member Childress. So do we have consensus that we want to move forward with this program? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Brooke.
very much.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate the presentation. So I am advised that we do have executive session. What was that? Oh, do we have any old business? Any new business? Okay, so we do have executive session. I'll ask those that are not associated with the executive session to please exit the room. I'll make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 1202C 2T, review of executive session minutes. Can I have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay.
If you're on Zoom and you shouldn't be, please exit it.
Oh, to do executive session. Can we have a roll call, please, to go into executive session?
Member Cahill, Member Chaplin,
Aye.
Member Childress.
Yes.
Member Covert, Member Desart, Member Eckhoff, Member Evans, Member Galassi, Member Garcia. Aye. Member Guston, Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante.
Aye.
Member Ozag, Member Rutledge, Member Swarthy, Member Tornatori, Member you, and Member Zay.
Okay, so we're going to head into executive session.